Hi, this is Zena Harris.
And I'm Mark Rabin.
Welcome to the tie-in.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the tie-in from the field. I'm here with Genie, and we're at the Coachella event grounds, pre-Coachella, so we're the week and a half from Coachella, and I've had the pleasure of being out here since yesterday and meeting with folks like Ken Deans and Neil from Overdrive, and I was introduced to Genie here, who is holding the key and the missing key of the puzzle of understanding our actual site power, how much we're using, what we're doing, because if we don't know that, how can we go out there and make a real power plan for the future? So maybe give a quick little intro, and also like how you came up with this and what you're doing here actually, because I'm your biggest fan now, officially.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we started this program a few years back, like 8 years ago, as a test at Burning Man, because I started running the power department.
I'm just making sure it's recording.
Yeah, it's recording.
We're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
It started 8 years ago at Burning Man because I started running the power department. I took that position, and at that time, the vendor was bringing in whatever, like any size generator, super oversized.
Yeah.
We didn't have any battery, nothing hybrid, so we were burning through diesel, and that contract was very expensive. So as a joke, I come from the hardware and software development. So I designed a board to measure power in fuel grids and fuel power grids.
It was a piece of hardware, though. Like what was that initial piece of?
Yeah, it was just a piece of hardware that uses LoRa because it's the easiest way to get communication between sites, especially at Burning Man, as it's such an open space. You can just like install an antenna on top of a building, and you got the data right away. So that was the first kind of like trying to figure out how we could do that. And starting from the second year of that project, like we started adding more and more
sensors.
Last year we got something in the realm of like more than 200 sensors on Playa.
Wow. At every generator points.
Yeah. Only for infrastructure, Burning Man infrastructure, not
the other 8 million generators.
Not the other 8 million generators out there. We didn't get there yet because like it's a little bit more complicated.
It's too decentralized, right?
Exactly. So with that baseline, we've been able to send out a new RFP for new power and set a new goal. The organization set a goal a few years back about being net zero by 2030.
Right.
It's still 5 years. So on that wave, we've been able to request a different type of configuration from the vendors. One vendor in particular came in with a great solution to have to hybridize all the power grids. But the cool thing about having the data was sizing.
Yeah.
Because we reduced the size in most of the places that we were running, like 150, 200, 250. In some places we ran twin 500s.
Wow. For like a light and a little sound system?
Kind of, yeah. It was a little bit more than that, but after that sizing, so having a baseline of what your real usage is, you can go like up and down like 10, 20%. But at that point, you are reducing the size of the iron you're bringing in. And you also can create different scenarios. Like, for example, some grid was so small, even if they had a 100 kW generator, it was so small that we could switch it to solar.
Yeah.
So, for example, as you mentioned before we were chatting, Center Camp at Burning Man, last year ran partially on the solar array on our unicorn. Is an internal design from Burning Man.
Yeah, I love that design.
Developed by Burning Man, and they're setting it out there. The other one last year, I think was the year before, it was Temple. The Temple was running completely on solar. The Man was running on solar for 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Because we had the data. Without having the data, like, how can you size, like your requirements to the vendor or to whatever kind of solution you're bringing in?
It's almost like there's a lot of anxiety around, like, are we going to have enough power, or is it going to last? Is it going to go out at the moment that we need it? So the data helps bring, like, sort of like some level of like confidence to what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a how can I say this? I work with systems, and I know that every system needs a backup.
Yeah.
So you can't rely on only a single source, for example. If you looked at the Temple or at the Membase last year and the year before, there was a small, teeny tiny generator on the side.
Like 25 kVA.
It was a 25 or 36 or something in that realm. But the thing is, like, it was there just in case of emergency, and we never used it. But it was planned for that. So the size was planned. It was just there in case of, like, we had a year like a couple of years ago when it was raining. Do you remember that?
I wasn't there that year. Luckily, I was there 2022 and then 2024.
Oh, okay.
I was there the super hot year, like 2022.
Yeah. So, like, every system needs a backup.
Yeah.
But if you're able to size that backup and plan for your installation, that's your golden ticket.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't remember exactly the numbers, but we reduced a lot of fuel usage in the last few years because we knew exactly what we were doing. People are scared. Are scared of change, and when you change for something that you never tested before or isn't known to you, is normal that you're scared. Is it going to work?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or how do I recharge it?
Yeah. Or, like, what I do in case of an emergency, or I never faced this problem before, is a live event. I have people rely on this, so that needs to be something that is, like, safe and secure and working. 99.99999% of the time. There's no 100% ever.
Yeah.
So I applied that mentality that I use every day with my clients to that specific project, and we redid the entire power grid at Burning Man.
For the whole site, or
No, only for infrastructure,
only
for our infrastructure.
And that's DPW
That's
overseeing the infrastructure, and that's purely for, like I said, Burning Man installations particularly.
Correct.
Okay.
So DPW oversee all the org infrastructure, plus we offer power to some art pieces and things like that, or some camp that they're interactive camps, or in that realm.
So you jump from, so you're at Burning Man, which is, I always say, is the most beautiful proving ground, right? Like your tech has to work, it gets beat up, dusty, whatever.
Exactly.
I run into you here at Coachella, which is arguably one of the biggest premier festivals in the world.
Yeah.
3 weekends, lots of stuff happening.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of liters and gallons of diesel burned. How are you here right now in this little office at Burning Man? It's incredible, right? And Coachella.
So the organization at Coachella was curious to understand their power usage, and they heard of this project that was running at Burning Man, and they called us in to do an assessment of their power usage. Right here we have more than 400 sensors that we're deploying all around site. Oh yeah.
So this is, you developed this sensor.
This is developed together with a company that I used to work for in China. I used to work with, not for, in China. But yeah, the base board inside is something that I developed 8 years ago, and it kept evolving. This is version 4, and now is waterproof, dustproof, has a solar panel, has a rechargeable lithium-ion battery. So this can run basically forever without any external power source. But this is one of the the two solutions that we were bringing in. Here we only have this.
Yeah.
At Burning Man, we have another solution since our vendor has specific controllers on the battery and on the generator. Relies on a different technology, doesn't rely on LoRa like this one. This is easier because you can go like and spread it around. You just need a couple of antennas. You can cover 10 miles, no problem at all, especially in the desert.
Yeah.
It's completely open. The other technology we're using is based on my regular client work. I deploy infrastructure, computation and networking and edge networking. And on that edge networking, we've been working on LTE, private LTE for the last few years. We have our own EPC, the Evolved Packet Core, to collect the data. It's not to collect the data, I don't know if you're familiar with LTE, but on Wi-Fi, there's one system to authenticate and authorize the user. LTE is different. It needs its own EPC, its own Evolved Packet Core for authentication, authorization, and tell the user what they can and cannot do, where they can go, and all this
So
kind
it's
of
secure.
thing. It's more how the technology is developed, right? So, but this commercial EPC, that are very expensive, we based on an open source project, we redeveloped partially that open source project, and we design our own APC that is completely open source. So you can just like download it, fire it up, connect an antenna, use it. And I think that's the way to go, because open source, like collaborative kind of projects are the way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that relies on LTE, so we have way higher bandwidth than LoRa, and in that case we interface directly with the controller of generators and batteries and whatever kind of infrastructure the vendor is bringing in, and we collect way more data. So with this one we collect an average of like 3 data points per second. With that other system, we collect 8,000 data points per second.
Wow.
Because we can interact with the ECU of the engine, so we can have the entire ECU data transferred to us, fuel level, depth level for the generator, if there's any alarm or something in that realm. So we know exactly what's going on, especially now that the technology is evolving toward hybrid grids, like we have at Burning Man. At Burning Man, 95% of our grids today are hybrid. That means we have battery, we have generator, we run out of batteries, we run the system from the battery, and the generator is there only to fill up the battery when they are a low state of charge.
And there's no solar on those hybrid systems, or there's a mismatch?
No, there's no solar because we don't have the real estate.
Got it.
We don't have enough real estate for that.
Yeah. I'm still a huge fan. I mean, when we did some early work with hybridization, we proved that we could reduce fuel consumption and GHGs by 70 to 90%.
Correct.
Depending on the use case.
Correct. We've been able to reduce a good 45%.
Okay.
But then the other part of the project is, okay, we're still burning fuel because people are still requesting the power. So the other part of the game is going to be like training people how to use power properly. Don't walk away from your RV to go party and leave your air conditioner blasting on if you're not in it. You know,
need
like
timers almost. Like this is where like evolving to like some sort of smart controls.
That's another part of one of the projects that I'm trying to bring to the playa is like, why don't we build some sort of model house that you bring on the playa? It can be anything. It can be a trailer, it can be, doesn't matter, container. But that has automation in it, like present sensor. If you're present, the air conditioner is going to run. If you're absent for more than 10 minutes, it just shut off by itself. So
I love it.
Like all this, the technology can help compensating for the human behavior, because at the end of the day, it's just us, you know, behaving in a certain way. The technology can help us compensate for that, because sometimes I don't remember. I remember all the time to turn off the air conditioner, but
we get swept up in the thing, right?
Sometimes you walk out and you just forget about it, and that technology,
especially when everybody's leaving and you got to jump in there.
Yeah, exactly. So that can help. Burning Man is another story because we don't have enough real estate for solar. There's a lot of things involved. We got a 360 a few years ago. I don't know if you know that. The 360 is a 360-acre piece of property that Burning Man got.
Yeah.
The idea was to build a gigantic solar array there and have like battery swap and charge the battery using it as a fuel station. There's a lot of permitting involved.
And battery swapping is kind of problematic, depending on the application. If it's smaller stuff, it's easy, but big ones?
Well, you can, I mean, at that point, we had that conversation, and event like Burning Man need to change their layout.
Yeah.
Because if you have to tow in and out battery with any electric vehicle that can tow, like a let's not talk about Cybertruck, but any other electric vehicle that can tow
F1
whatever,
F-150 Lightning,
that can tow a battery in and out, has the capability to tow 6, 7, 8,000 pounds of battery in and out of the city. You just create a desert highway that goes to the 360, charge the battery, brings back a battery charged, and then you decentralize. So you solve partially the real estate problem, but still you're like charging from a renewable, and you're just moving battery back and forth.
Yeah.
And at some point, the battery technology is going to get better. Like,
yeah. I think I always say it's as good as it's ever been.
Yeah.
And like people can't just say the batteries aren't good enough anymore.
No, they're good. The problem is like we're incurring in the same problem that, like the lithium is not the best chemistry to run. But there's a lot of companies that they're developing new type of batteries.
Yeah,
so,
sodium ion is out there.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, it's a kind of a brave new world, and place like Burning Man can be good testing grounds, but then you come to like a really like this is the show is on, right? Burning Man, things happen and whatever, but here you can't afford to have that, right? It is like this is some of the biggest acts in the world, right?
Yeah,
$1 million tickets, and they have you back up.
But there's solutions here too, like. For example, I don't know if we can say names, but this Atlas Copco 500 kW that they're testing back here at the catering, that's a good solution. If you can parallel 4 of those, you have 2 megs stored, and you can run an entire show, and still having your generator as a backup in case of failure in any configuration. It could be like in helping with the load. It can be with an automatic transfer switch, whatever solution you want to find.
And so you would put enough storage there for the run of the show.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. You wouldn't.
That's you run the entire show,
and then you charge them up somewhere, and then you bring it back.
But without the data, you don't know how much that show is going to cost you as far as energy. So you need to have that data. How big the battery is going to be for your stage if you don't know how much the stage is using, how much power the stage is using?
Well, and that's the thing is normally everybody always just used to think in terms of power, right? That was it. It was kind of like, I need this much.
But for how long?
Right. Well, you've got load in, you've got load out. I mean, you've got this, it's not just like a 5-hour show.
Exactly. So the problem with the battery is there's a new concept in the battery that is like how much you can store.
Yeah.
Because if you want to run a show only on a single battery, for example, you need to have enough stored to feed that show.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you ever saw this company that now I don't think exists anymore, the Moxion.
Oh yeah.
So Moxion,
well.
It was a good idea.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfect, but it's still like a big fuel tank. Yeah. You bring your big fuel tank, you drain your fuel tank, and when it's done, you just tow it away.
Yeah.
It was a heavy fuel tank because I think it's like in the realm of 10,000 pounds, but still, like it's totally feasible.
And there's 1,000 of them out in the world, or however many they made.
Yeah, exactly. So we tested those at Burning Man, and this is the same concept. Like in the back of the show, you have enough capacity and enough storage to run the entire show. But how can you plan for that if you have no idea what's happening?
Yeah, and we're still not monitoring everything because you have a solar array over there, you've got a power system over there, you've got this. So what you're doing here is aggregating. You're measuring all the data.
Correct.
All of it.
Yeah, all of it.
Every electron that's flowing. Well, you're monitoring. You're trying to get it, and then you're coming back and you're aggregating it into one dashboard, and then
Correct.
like how are you presenting the data back to the? So Coachella was like, we need to know exactly how much power we use
Correct.
and how much energy we need over the duration of the event.
Exactly. So at the end of the event, I'm going to compile a report. I use the same format as I use at Burning Man. I'm going to compile a report grid by grid, power grid by power grid.
Yeah.
How much energy they use, because I have the number, how much energy they asked for, and how much energy they got as far as rental. So rental brought in X, you used X, and you requested X. So, and that's going to happen grid by grid. So we have an idea of like instant consumption versus total consumption, how many kilowatt hour they used through all the entire event, and how that power was distributed during the event. Because as you said, load in, they're not using that much.
Yeah.
It could be like very low, but then we have peaks. So you need to be able to catch those peaks, because you can't just think about that number in kilowatt hour stored. You also
You
need
got
to
the big
figure
weekends.
out. Yeah, you also need to figure out like your peaks and for how long you're going to use it. But that's all going to be in the report at the end.
And you're also educating. Coachella. I mean, Coachella's been at the forefront of this, but people still struggle with power and energy and what that means and how to measure it and how to like go then back to the vendor, right? Because they're also going to use this document to go back to the vendors and say, okay, they're going to negotiate. Or so it's a lot of stuff happening with this.
Could also be
with this
like
data.
Yeah, could also be some sort of negotiation. That's on them, right? What they do with that information is on them, but at least they have the information. And this could be a baseline if they want to repeat it next year.
Right.
This is a baseline to understand how the event is evolving and how can we make it more sustainable. Because I'm pretty sure that some area that I already saw that could be easily swapped to battery pack and a solar array.
Yeah. But some will need either larger batteries, different types of hybrid systems eventually. I see that as being an opportunity. No one's really doing large scale hybrid batteries that are integrated. They're always like one in one, like a side by side. But I don't know.
We had experience with one of this vendor. So the hybrid we use at Burning Man right now, the first year we had a little bit of a hiccup because we got a battery, was 450 kilowatts stored, was 150 stored, 70 usable, 70 output, and we had bigger grid than that, so they were not parallelable. So we were like, okay, it's
just plugging them in.
It's gonna be individual battery with an individual generator and we had to split the grids in million of microgrids. And that was a nice experiment. That's the cool thing about Burning Man, is that you can experiment with that. You cannot do it here.
That's what I love about it.
Yeah. But then working with the vendor, we redesigned the software of the battery, and now they're parallelable. And last year we did an experiment with parallel up to 10 batteries. So we had like 700 kilowatt output and 1.5 meg of storage on smaller units. So you can just like plug it in. Or you can, it's like a Lego. You can scale it up or scale it down.
And that's the way it should be.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much what the same concept that Overdrive is using,
absolutely.
but on a larger scale battery. So you can, instead of having like 150, 70, you can have like 500, 300, whatever it is, and you can just parallel and scale it up.
Show Power. From Paul and Lawrence and those guys, they've got this. The Coldplay battery has a modular setup, so they have like 5 power electronic hubs and then 10 storage hubs, and it fits into one. It's 1.2 megawatts by 1.6 megawatt hours. But it's modular, and it's kind of like
cool.
It's a cool concept, right? You have redundancy if something happens, failure.
And the concept, like if you have a way to hot swap it or things like that, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So just like last thoughts then. So you're just getting this going? This is your dashboard.
Yeah, so we're
Maybe talk to us a little bit about how you're going to do it, because right now it's early days. But when things start going, are you guys here monitoring this 24 hours a day?
we don't need to, because we have automation. That's the beauty of automation. Like, everything is automated. We have alarm for everything. If we lose power, if we are the battery of the systems are too low, like everything that we can monitor with this is the analog system, so it doesn't have a shit ton of data. But it all gets to here. So
but no one's relying. So right now, today, it's not like you're controlling things right now. It's purely informational.
monitoring,
And that's good. But then if something's going on, you'll know first before anything.
Yeah, we're gonna receive notification for anything. For example, if a generator dropped to zero, we're gonna see it. We're gonna receive an alarm right away. We're sending every second. So in the time of like an alarm takes like at least 2 or 3 cycles, because we want to be sure not to catch some like false positive. And after 3 or 4 reports that is down, that means like 3, 4, 5 seconds. If it's still down, we're gonna the 3 legs are down. We're gonna receive it. We're gonna receive an alarm on the phone.
Man, this
is
so
the easy.
cool.
This is the easy system. The other one I like it better because this only measure power usage. The other one can get all the information from battery, from generators, alarms, internal alarms. So, for example, one of the problem of a hybrid solution is that you're running on battery. The battery has a state of charge. It gets to the state of charge where you ask for the generator to kick in and charge the battery. So you're getting to that emergency phase where like you can't go lower than
like
10%. Depend on how you want to stretch it. But if you go lower than 10%, it's a problem for the lithium. So you're gonna cut it at 10%, and you're gonna shut power off. But the problem that we discovered at Burning Man is that you have an island with 10 batteries. You have your 1.5 megs, and you have and you have 250 kW generator that they're charging the battery when it's needed. Something happened to the generator. The battery charger for the starter battery doesn't work. Something happened with the filter. The like diesel filter got clogged. The generator start cranking. It doesn't turn on. You don't know that.
And who's there?
You have no idea that's happening.
And it could be at 3 in the morning.
It could be at 3 in the morning, exactly. And
only when people's air conditioning goes out do they notice.
No. At that point, you already black out the entire grid. Before, so if you want to be notified before blacking out the entire grid, as soon as that generator throw an alarm, with this system, you can just receive that alarm in your dashboard and your phone. And what I'm working on right now is I use the same software that I use for other clients in a different configuration, just to have, example, you have like 5 battery tech and 5 diesel tech on site, and they have a schedule. They're on shift. Somebody's out at Burning Man, somebody's sleeping. So based on the shift, you have an escalation procedure that take in account that shift, and if there's an alarm related to a generator, send it to a gen tech. If there's an alarm related to a battery, send it to a battery tech. If they don't acknowledge the alarm in 2 minutes, that's going to start escalating to another tech and the manager, and so on and so on.
But they have to like tag in or whatever, right?
Yeah, they have to tag in. Is a software that we use in IT all the time. It's called PagerDuty. It's open source. It's kind of open source, but there's a version of it that can be tweaked. And it's the same thing. So you have your schedule, you schedule your tech, and they receive the notification based on what's happening on the ground. So all that logic, you build the logic in advance, and
I love it.
It's good to go.
I have 2 last questions. One, if I was a generator company, I would be like happy and a little bit concerned at the same time, because it's like, well, because I'm used to doing one thing one way, and then this new data may change how I'm doing my business, or it may mean a bunch of generators don't go on site anymore. How are you working well with the generator? Their
company?
You're collaborating with them, and they're open to this?
Oh yeah, they're totally open, because for them, like, at least for the company I'm working with. For them is more important that right sizing and giving the right gear and with the right configuration to the client than giving them just like a bunch of stuff and figure it out. I don't know other company how they will react, but at the end of the day, having the information is always, it will be of value for them too, because between not having that information, just shooting in the dark, and having that information, I mean, a simple, stupid thing could be like, the client requested, I'm inventing number, the client requested a 200 kW generator. I don't have it in stock. I need to send a 500. I'm just inventing numbers. Having the data, I can decide, okay, I want to send the 500, I can send the 150.
Yep.
Because that client is sitting on 35 kilowatts. So it gives you more power of, you know, like deciding what your policy is going to be, what, you know, like your solution is going to be for that client. That's my opinion. That's what I will do if I was a rental company.
Me too. I guess I just didn't know how to really get the data, and so they didn't really make an effort, because there's, you know,
they kind of do. So if you look at any equipment that comes in from a vendor, they have telemetry. The problem with that telemetry is that it's built by the manufacturer most of the time. It's not granular. It sends data out every 3, 4, 5 minutes, depending on the manufacturer, depending on the rental company, and it sends it to a central location in somewhere in the cloud, and then the rental company needs to pull that data from the vendor. So different vendors.
Yeah, exactly.
You have like
how do you bring it all together?
Cummings.
Like
yeah,
this.
exactly. So
you're actually kind of agnostic to each one of the vendors.
That's the idea, is to be completely agnostic with both systems.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and we saw that with our vendor, like in some occasion, like Coachella, Burning Man, they rely on public LTE, because they basically have a modem inside that has a SIM card that sends the data to the manufacturer via internet. That's not reliable, because as soon as people start showing up at this event, this AT&T, T-Mobile, whatever tower are going to collapse.
Yeah.
There's going to be 150,000 people here, everyone with their phone.
Yeah.
So at that point, that telemetry is either going to stay in the machine if they have a storage, and it's not going to be real time. So you don't know in real time what's going on. Could be, I mean, if you have a data logger, you can review the data logging after that, but most of the rental company, they don't have the time, because, you know, like the data is in the data logger, but that specific machine needs to go to another event. They can't keep, you know, assets in their backyard for too long, because they need to make them generate money. So they have to move those things. And if you have it already in a database or two, because I've run everything redundant.
Yeah.
Everything is redundant. Even the servers are like, I have redundancy of 3 on everything, including the database.
Yeah, not your first rodeo.
I work with data, so
Yeah.
I also have a local local object backup, an S3 backup here, and another one on the cloud. So it's just like,
I love it.
3 plus 2, I have 5 copies of everything at any moment in time, because the data is important. So if you lose the data, you know, like you basically lost the entire work you did.
Well, I love it. I mean, so this right now is a project, but I do see a lot of opportunity here, especially to be the supplier for a lot of these, you know, for the generator rental companies, as it's agnostic to everybody. And so, where do you see this project going?
We're discussing about, like, you know, like what we're gonna do in the future, and there's some conversation going. We don't know yet, but we have a lot of gear.
It's
so
cool. I mean,
we have a lot of gear that stays in a storage for like 10 months a year. So we may gonna take advantage of that and see if somebody else is interested. we probably can go and do
all
other
the
events.
major events and festivals will need your services.
We'll
At
see.
least until we get a baseline, right?
Yeah.
And understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But then there's a whole other market opportunity, which then is there's the actual site monitoring and
Yeah, I mean, you can always keep an eye on, like year by year to understand where you're going and how you're growing and which direction you're going. But, or if you're reducing power, that's the most important
Yes.
part, in my opinion, because
yeah.
as I said at the beginning, like in an event like Burning Man, now we are trying to reduce that request. So we're generating and people are demanding. But
Yeah.
if the demand is getting smaller and smaller and smaller,
Yeah.
we can also save and reduce and keep reducing and keep saving diesel and money and
Yeah.
emission, especially emission.
Yeah. Man.
Other
I love it.
other things that are happening at some point is going to be like the diesel is going to be replaced with renewable diesel, but that's another
costs
completely
more,
another
yeah.
can of worm because
Yeah.
it
And
costs.
still even hydrogen. Even if you go to a hydrogen, whatever, right? It's
Yeah.
still going to cost money. And if you go green hydrogen, it's going to cost more. And then you still have the delivery and the trucks coming back and forth.
Yeah.
So either way, you're reducing at the source, and
Yeah.
you're trying to right size your systems, and you're trying to do hybrid and batteries and solar and generators.
Yeah, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, in a month,
Yeah.
I ran an experiment in another burner event in Europe. We have a small event in Europe, it's just 3,000 people,
Yeah.
so it's a regional event. And I built an HH splitter cell to split oxygen and nitrogen. The problem was storing the hydrogen. It was
Yeah.
kind of like problematic. So fortunately, I had a friend that is the owner of a Nobel gas company.
Like
so
Air Liquide style or something.
no, it's a guy. Well, he let me borrow like a $30,000 compressor that is also has an internal separator that separates oxygen from hydrogen. But
and you put it into cylinders after that?
and I put it into a cylinder, but it was just like a daily kind of use. And we ran a team camp out of it. So it was just like sound and some
Yeah.
light. It was just a proof of concept to see if it was feasible to generate your own hydrogen on site, store it, and use it in the next 24 hours. Because the problem of hydrogen is always the same, is no matter where you put it, it's going to escape.
Yeah.
There's a company in Japan that is designing a sort of like it's a nanopolymer made of carbon nanotubes. I don't know exactly the composition or the formula, but that captures hydrogen molecules and releases it with a small electric charge.
Wow.
It costs.
So you can do it from solar.
So you can just like from renewable, instead of storing in lithium, you can store it. You can generate hydrogen with HH splitter cells, split water, salty water, and nitrogen and oxygen. And at that point, you save the hydrogen on one side, and you build an oxygen bar on the other side, so people can also have fun.
That's great. I mean, I think we're still yet to see the real traction of hydrogen in terms of what we're doing here, and I think that's going to be exciting. There's going to be lots of opportunity there.
We'll see what's going to happen. There's a lot of companies that are working on it. They're working on different solutions, so we'll see what solution is going to come out.
But we still need the data.
We still need the data.
So I think we're still at the ground floor here, and the work that you're doing is amazing. So thank you so much, and I look forward to running into you again at Burning Man and wherever, and seeing how this project continues to evolve and grow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Our producer is Colin Miller.